This is Reasonable Doubt with your hosts, Mark Garrigus and Adam Carolla.
Yeah, get it on. Got to get on a choice. We've got a man to get on. Welcome to the best hour or so in the universe. It's Reasonable Doubt. I'm Adam Carolla. That's Mark. Hard out. Soft taco. Garrigus.
And I'm here today, although it doesn't sound like I can, like the sound is right, but I'm looking over in their direction. Yeah.
It says it's good.
It says it's good. Good.
You can check your volume.
But I was laughing, by the way, because you throw out these classic lines and you don't even realize how classic your lines are. He just said that Adam just said, I'm looking at Gary, not he. I don't talk to Adam as if he's in the third. But he said for Drew, it's like a Make-A-Wish Foundation.
Yes, getting to converse with you. He loves it.
I enjoy talking to Drew as well. I don't see Drew at all. I see you, but I don't see Drew that often. And he's I don't know why. I had told him Paulette had invited them out on Friday night for dinner. Mm-hmm. And I said, and it was tough for me, but I hate Friday night going out. I just hit the finish line, and then I just want to sit in the chair. You know what I mean? And Drew was tempting. I said to go to dinner with Drew, but then I said, well, Adam asked me to sub for Adam and Drew, and I didn't want to kind of shoot the conversational wad on Friday and then have nothing for Monday or whenever we did it, right?
So yeah, and this strategy worked because Drew said you had a very ample and engaging conversation. And
for listeners of this show, those will be coming out next week.
Yes.
So you know what I did with Drew? Because I thought it was interesting. I played for him something that I want to... Wait, Gary's giving me this look.
Yeah, we're having a technical issue here, so just vamp for a minute or two.
Well, okay. I'll tell you that when I did shows Sunday night in Solana Beach, California, which is somewhere around San Diego, but it's a beautiful little area, Barrett LePagian's daughter... Talia. Yes, came out to the show to say hi. Barrett is the owner of Tinhorn Flats and a high school classmate of mine from North Hollywood High, circa 1982.
Along with the other guy who ripped off Reasonable Doubt.
Oh.
Who you used to cram into the locker, and the payback's a bitch. What was that guy's name? John?
We'll figure that one out. So it made me think, any updates, anything you can talk about?
Not yet, although if you can believe it, the city of Burbank has elected this guy, Konstantine, as their mayor.
Wow, that guy. Yeah.
That guy who
struggles.
Yeah, he has life is a struggle for him. And of course, you know, this is kind of it fits in with some of your theory about politicians. As far as I can tell, he's never had a real job.
Yeah, well,
and so he's failed upward to the point where he's now the mayor of Burbank, which Burbank is not an insubstantial city, right?
No. Look, it's a city that if you grew up in Wichita, you would have heard of growing up in Wichita.
Johnny Carson.
Which is a lot to say about a city. And yes, I am so tired of people not having real life work experience, then setting policy for people who try to run businesses. And I don't know, Walter Mondale or one of those guys. And I told this story that, you know, he basically tried to open a B&B after he retired from government. And he said it was painful and
George
regulatory.
McGovern.
McGovern. It was McGovern. And he just said, I wish I knew now when I was making policy for all these poor people.
I was just today, I was in a spot where another inspector came through and remained nameless.
Boy.
And I asked him, I said, why? And he says, well, we got an anonymous tip. And I said, you mean if I just pick up the phone right now and I call your agency and I duke in an anonymous tip, because there's plenty of people that I'd like to visit this upon. You'll just show up and all of a sudden have to shut everything down and go through a rigmarole. Yeah. And I said, well, how in the world how is that Why do you get some pass just because you're the government and you're able to just go out, deploy resources, and stop somebody running a business because somebody didn't even have the guts to attach their name to an accusation?
I was thinking about you, and I was thinking about that as I was passing through the neighborhood the other day because we had torrential rainstorms.
Right.
Torrential rainstorms, and the old storm drain that was in front of my old house would get backed up and create a lake in the intersection. And I had some hydroaquatics engineer come out to me, and he just said, here's how you fix this problem. You do this, you put a lid on the top, you put a dam on the back.
I walk by it every day.
Yes, and that's how you fix the problem.
Right.
And I, with my sort of engineering building background, sort of thought about what he was doing and was trying to prevent the backyard from flooding and the lake from building in front. And I said, that makes sense. All right. And I didn't know it was on my property or not. It was, on the edge of my property.
It's clearly within. I mean, it would be. By the way, if you had trash in that same location, they would compel you to clean it up.
Say your property's
right.
a mess,
yeah.
right? And it's even with where the driveway starts, and it's called my driveway,
right?
Not their
right.
driveway. So
exactly,
I, at my
driveway.
own expense, remedied this. I put some cinder block brick, put a lid, put a cement
very
lid on
nicely
top
done,
of it.
by the way.
Finished it off well, all out of my own pocket, my own time. And then the guy who lived behind me, who claimed this was me doing this to him, wasn't satisfied with it. Because that's just how every neighbor works. He was angry, whatever. And then the city got involved, and the city explained to me that I needed to. The city came and looked at it and said, "This is never going to work." And I thought, it's kind of like saying, I want to hang a painting up, and you go, fine, I'll put a nail in the stud in the wall, and you can hook the painting on that, and you put the nail up, and the city guy looks at the painting, looks at the nail, and goes, this will never work. And I go, why not? Why wouldn't it work? I built a dam here, and by the way, I didn't have the Domino's pizza guy coach me up on this guy. The guy was like a certified drainage engineer. He's a
right.
bonded
You had a guy who,
drainage.
by the way, I would have had to search if I wanted this guy as an expert. I would have had to hire some expert search service.
So the guy's licensed and bonded in drainage and hydro mechanics and dynamics. Told me what to do to fix it. I executed it perfectly and fixed it. And it worked because it rained a week later, and I saw there's no water in the backyard. But then the city, in their infinite wisdom, showed up and said, this is never going to work. And I said, okay, I get it. It's never going to work. I don't know what you're basing that on, but I am telling you, I have seen it in action, and it works like a charm. And they said, it's never going to work. And I said, I'll tell you what, why don't we try to be reasonable here? The next time it rains hard, why don't you come on by and watch it in action? And then I think we'll have solved this little conundrum, and we can all get the fuck on with our lives. And they said, all right, we'll do that. And I said, please do. And then I got a letter like 4 months later saying, you gotta blow it out. It's never going to work. And I said, it's rained 5 times since then. You didn't see it working? It worked like a charm because I drove right through that area. It works perfectly. And they said, no, you got to blow it out. And I said, okay, do you want me now to just take a sledgehammer to this thing and then recreate the mess that it was for time immemorial? I mean, that's how it was.
And by the way, as somebody who walks by there every day, you solved the problem of having to walk through what was literally a little reservoir in the street before that.
You're welcome.
Exactly.
You're welcome, citizens of La Cañada.
Yes, because I no
fucking
longer
fixed it at my own expense.
And I didn't have wet socks anymore
That's
from
right.
walking through it.
Oh, but then the realtor's on the phone, and then they got an email from the city, and then the asshole with the yard behind you, he's not satisfied.
And then they're going to hold up the escrow.
Oh, they're going to hold up the house. You can't sell the house because the guy in the back wants to, and the city's not going to. And I'm like, are you fucking guys for real? What is going on? It works like a charm. This is 6 years ago. Works perfectly.
And it's worked.
Jesus
I
Christ.
walked by there this morning. It still works.
Okay. So I will take my apology.
Yeah, right.
In the form.
After all of that, it took a letter citing all of the stuff for them to finally back down.
You wrote.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
I finally just went, would you guys fuck right off? You were insane. What is going... And by the way, I know you have an unlimited amount of time to invest in this problem that I solved. I am at a disadvantage because I do not have an unlimited amount of time.
I have so much time, and it's got to be deployed in a way that makes sense for resources.
This is the realtor. This is the asshole neighbor. This is the city.
The buyer. Everybody.
It's a cabal
right.
of people. And the realtor saying, just get a jackhammer and blow the whole thing out. I'm like, really? This is where we're at.
Yeah, because the solution in those situations is have the guy who has the incentive to get who's got the resources and doesn't have the time to waste, will spend the money.
Right.
To just make it go away. And they know that. They're just like little terrorists or hostage takers, and they're just waiting for you to pay the ransom.
I know, and I was literally talking to Dr. Drew about this earlier today, which is this adversarial relationship you have with the city of Burbank or with the La Cañada home, inspections, building and safety or whatever. It's not supposed to be adversarial. Your taxes pay for you. You're supposed to help me. As long as I'm not going on a shooting rampage, you guys are supposed to be working in conjunction and in unison and being thoughtful and coming up with solutions to whatever. There's way too much of this. Building safety is this way, the Burbank City Council, whatever. You dare cross them. If you have the temerity to just raise your hand and go, I talked to a guy who's an engineer and he told me to work and it's effective. Oh boy, now we got a troublemaker. Now we got it. Now you're in trouble, son. You should have never defied us. Defied who? You who make $47,000 a year, graduate in the middle of your class at John Burroughs High School, and went on to a life of junior college and mediocrity. You cannot be crossed. You who lived out of your car. You who struggles with addiction and mental disabilities. We have to worry about you.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
all right.
That's it. Gary's got it up on the screen.
I got a clip.
Yeah. So I'll set this up. This is the Murdaugh trial. I keep saying Murdaugh. I don't even know. Somebody was saying, ironically enough, that Murdaugh is being charged with murder. It's a dad joke. So this is his best friend who is testifying outside the presence of the jury. This is before the judge ruled that all of the financial embezzlement accusations are going to come in, as the prosecution has a theory that, and there's another clip Gary's got, but this is the first one, and then I'll watch it, and then I'll tell you what I'm going to ask you, if it makes sense.
Yeah, why would you testify not in the presence of the jury?
To see whether or not it's admissible, because the defense would make the argument. And by the way, I think the defense actually, even though they lose the motion in the battle, they win the war, because this makes, in my humble opinion, makes the prosecution look so desperate that they're going to argue that this guy had committed financial crimes, which is why he then wasted his son and his wife that same day when he was confronted. And this guy's also going to testify that Murdaugh, the accused, was an opiate addict for 20 years or something.
Who put him up?
The prosecution.
The prosecution says this guy's friend.
This guy is the best friend. His best friend is who we're prosecuting.
Is going to help us make a case.
And here, Judge, we're going to give you a dry run of what he's going to testify to.
And that's a very good question,
Is this a common
Adam.
thing, the dry run?
Mm-hmm.
We explained this in detail on Beyond a Reasonable Doubt for anyone who wants to go backwards, and it's called Murdaugh in Camera. So if you want to check that one out, Mark goes into more detail.
This is basically what they call motions in limine, and the judge will hear it outside the presence of the jury. He can do it during the course of a trial, so he doesn't have to hold things up.
All right.
Was Alec very involved in the actual management of the firm?
No.
Were other partners more involved in the management of the firm?
Yes.
That was the second one, which we'll get to in a sec because it's interesting as well.
Did y'all have a conversation?
We did.
Where was the conversation?
I got there before he did. I don't think I pulled in the driveway. I kind of waited out on the road. Pulled in the driveway. We went in the side door. The caregiver was there. We went out onto the front porch, and we talked on the front porch.
And what did he say to you?
I mean, the first thing I asked him is, Alec, what the F or what the H is going on here? What is going on? And have you done something else to me or that involves me that I don't know about? Because I know about this, and I've got to deal with this. But is there something else you've done that I don't know about that I need to be concerned with?
And what did he say?
He broke down crying. Said I can't right this second. He went inside, came back out with some paper towels, and told me that he had a drug problem, that he was addicted to opioids, and that he had been addicted for, I don't remember if he said 20 or 20 plus years, but for 20 years or so.
Did he say anything about the money?
He told me that he had been stealing money.
Did he have a particular phrase about what he had done to you?
Shit me up.
He said he shit you up?
Shit me up or shit me off or something like that, but I think it was he'd shit me up.
And he said that he admitted to you he had been stealing client money?
Yes, sir.
So he confessed that to you, is that correct?
He said he had shit a lot of people up.
I'm going to show you what's been marked as States 313 in this in-camera hearing. Do you recognize that?
Yes, sir.
And what is that?
I think this is the original of that $225,000 fee check written in the gentleman's case directly to Richard Alexander Murdaugh, Esquire.
Is that your signature on it?
It is.
I've just been hoping Gary would name this episode "Shit Me Up," because okay, so you get.
I like the beginning because the beginning is like he want to know what the F.
What the F? What the H?
He did the H.
Yeah. What the F?
You can just say heck if that's an issue. But okay.
He must have been short to hell.
Well, so there's a couple of things, and I'll set it up for you, and I want your reaction. First of all, now, when this is going to be admissible, he gets up there, the jury's now going to know that Murdaugh was at least self-confessed, self-proclaimed an opioid addict for over 20 years and an embezzler. Now, couple of questions. Is that a leap? I asked Drew this. Is that a leap that you're an opioid addict and that you then, and you're accused of embezzlement, and you would then go and wipe out your wife and slaughter your son?
Yeah, it's a leap.
Yeah,
I mean, and it's sort of, I don't know. It's like saying this guy's an expert knife thrower, and there was a knife in the house, and so he must have killed his wife with a knife. It's just like, no, there's plenty of people that have knives that don't. There's plenty of opioid addicts that don't kill any family members, and there's plenty of embezzlers that don't.
And I
kill
qualified Drew as an expert. Drew actually made the way. He went to say, you have it? If we now have evidence that Mr. Murdaugh was addicted to opiates for over 20 years.
Correct.
And that he was having financial issues.
Correct.
And these financial issues led him to confess to having engaged in embezzlement.
Correct.
The morning of the murders, there was a confrontation. Yes, thank you. With one of his partners.
Correct.
Okay. Now, and that, based on that confrontation about the embezzlement, would you find it likely that some violent or desperate act, such as murder of his wife and his son, that would be consistent with the scenario I just gave you in a hypothetical?
Almost impossible.
Oh, yeah.
So here's the only way I could make it. Opiate addicts are interested in one thing, and one thing only, and that is doing opiates. Period. End of story. And that usually requires money. And that's all
By the way, which Paulette asked me about, because when I was talking to her about this, she said, "Why does he need money? I thought it was so cheap."
My bet is I'd like to know more about his opiate addiction. Like, did he graduate to heroin and fentanyl and stuff? Because that's where it gets cheap. If you're just doing the pills, which is sort of a professional style.
Can
drug
you look
addict,
at somebody and tell me, based on looking at them, and make a informed guess as to whether they've progressed to fentanyl based on their physical appearance?
Not fentanyl, but IV drugs.
Yeah.
And if enough time has passed since they last used, that would be very difficult. But I can tell you from my experience, most professionals see themselves as not true addicts, and so they maintain that sort of facade that lie to themselves by taking pills.
Boom. Now, can you show, and this one's only just a picture. I just want you to look so that you have the complete thing that Drew had. Show a picture of Murdaugh, which the prosecution also is introducing, which they're claiming was within hours of the murder, so that you can see what he looks like in this time period, in the exact same time frame. And Gary will show that to you in 5.
So are they basically saying, look, there's criminal behavior and then there's lawful behavior, and this guy engaged in criminal behavior.
He's a
could be
thief.
embezzling,
Right.
could be taking drugs, but he's crossed the line into criminal behavior versus lawful behavior, and so who knows what else he's capable of.
Exactly. And here he is, by the way, if you're watching on YouTube, but you can see that's him a couple hours before.
Trying to plant a tree or
Yeah,
screw around with a
exactly.
tree.
Yeah, exactly. And Drew took a look at that, and I think his reaction is, this guy's not on IV drugs, and that would be my reaction as well. This guy would not hang out with Dr. Alien on
Drew's main point was that he was wearing short sleeves, and if he was an IV drug user, he would be hiding that from his friends and family.
Yeah, so he embezzled, and he had an addiction problem, but what's that have to do with murdering your family?
Right. And why, if you're confronted with the embezzlement in that morning, you then go home and slaughter your wife and your son, who, by the way, there is no insurance policy that would immediately pay off, number one. And number two, if the reason that the prosecution is proffering is that you're going to be so mortified that you're going to be excused or you're going to be exposed and your wife and your son are going to find out. So what do? You slaughter them so they don't find out?
Well, on a more personal note, and speaking about wives, and we started talking about the neighborhood, it struck me that I have an ongoing dialogue with your wife about bits of metal that she finds in the neighborhood, because she's basically a truffle pig for scrap metal.
And trash. And trash.
She's like one of those old timers at the beach with the metal detector.
With the ones that look like an upside down UFO.
Yeah, frisbee, and she just wanders the highways and the byways of the La Cañada looking for pieces of metal. So she said, so I got a text from her announcing, well, first I got a text with a picture of the piece of metal.
A piece of metal. You're just getting...
A rod. It was a rod. And then she said, here's the picture of the piece of metal we talked about on the flight. And then I thought to myself, I drank half a bottle of Don Julio on that flight. I have no recollection of this discussion.
Unless this was surgically implanted during the flight, I have no recollection whatsoever.
I have no recollection of discussion of this rod on a flight. But she said, here's where it was. And I said, all right. And then a few weeks later, she sent me a second picture of another
piece of metal.
It's about a foot long. It's like a thin rod.
Like a rebar?
Looks to be broken on both ends. Very thin. Almost the heft of almost a wire paper hanger. Two strands of wire paper hanger flattened out. And I looked at it and I zoomed in. I zoomed in on the edges and I saw they were broken. And I announced to her that it was most likely a form tie. And
wow, I wouldn't have guessed
she was dubious.
Really? She didn't buy it? She
had one eyebrow raised. She was dubious, but then I had to take a deep dive on the internet
because it piqued your interest.
Yeah, so so you know, and all the listeners know, there's a lot of construction going on in the neighborhood.
Correct. Mario is constructing nonstop. Have you noticed this?
Yeah.
Nonstop.
And there's something called forms, and they used to do them as 2x6s or 3x6s, you know, and strands, and inside of forms, concrete forms. Now they do it with plywood. But you can't take 2 sheets of plywood, put them up 12 feet, and pour 7 metric tons of concrete in it, and not expect it to blow up or part. Right? Inside of all of those are form ties. So when you walk around and you see newer construction, there's all those little circles in the big flat wall, the big concrete wall. See all those little pockets everywhere?
But what are those?
Those are cones on a form tie. They're inside, and then on the outside. And this postdates me. I used to use another kind of form tie. But and Gary can find a picture of a cone form tie. I surmised that those, while they should be embedded in the concrete, those are ones that broke off or got loose or went rogue and are around the neighborhood because there's so much forming and concrete work going on. I cannot think of another application for that thing.
Is that needed for the structural integrity of the concrete itself?
We're looking at pictures of it, but you gotta. There's a better picture. You gotta have one that's there's just one alone. Believe me, I sat.
Yeah, these look almost like shish kebab
but
skewers.
You can see the cone, and that cone gives those holes in the wall. And I can't think of anything else. Now you have to.
How does that give you any kind of structural integrity?
Oh yeah, the next picture is good, and I think you break away the ends of them, Gary. If I'm correct, so what Paulette is finding is the center section of one of these,
which is supposed to be solidified inside of the concrete.
Yes, entombed. Oh. So it's basically.
Where did you come up with that?
It's what it is. I didn't come up with
entombed.
It's a more colorful way to say what you're saying.
They're Pharaoh strips. They're just entombed.
You must have these like every 2 feet, or the plywood will rip apart.
There you go.
It'll blow apart. So I think what she is finding on her travels in the neighborhood are a couple of rogue form ties. And she's no dummy, but she would know if it was a anchor or a piece of all thread or something. In the picture, there's no threads, there's no nuts, there's no, it's the centerpiece.
Very interesting. Okay. Now what I want to do is we're doing a little bit of construction. I'm going to ask the GC, are these kind of wayward guys that didn't get satisfactorily buried at the forest lawn of construction, are they indicia of bad construction or bad? I want to know. Maybe we'll get, instead of, do you think that the guy from La Cañada will come around and say, bash down the walls, bash down the cement walls?
I told Paulette, I think they're form ties, and she said, they look too skinny to be form ties. And I was like, all right, first off, what do you know about form? You don't even heard the term.
Form ties.
I just introduced that into your lexicon. You formerly didn't know about form ties before you met me. So
I introduced you to form ties.
You would have never known forms or ties if not for me. That was her nice way of saying that she was dubious.
Yeah, she didn't want to question your bona fides, but still, there was a little bit of cynicism.
Form ties are by nature very skinny, because if you think to yourself what you could do with just a piece of wire,
right,
not strung up every 2 feet, not to blow something, a thin piece of cable, that would be enough to prevent something from blowing apart.
So then I don't think you would need them for structural. You would need the vertical rebar for structural.
The structural part of it is not letting the form blow apart.
Exactly, right. Because if the form blows apart, then the cement's not going to solidify in place. Okay.
That's right.
This is to catch a contractor.
Yes. But I will ask that she keep her evidence.
Her
and
evidence.
Let me inspect
and
it.
I am going to tell her that you demand. If Crystal was out there, Crystal will be the keeper, the custodian for the evidence.
She can talk.
Yeah, exactly.
Nobody talks forming, concrete forming, and even block stacking rebar more than Crystal and Paula. So we'll get them going on that. But that's my expert opinion as to what she's finding in the neighborhood.
I will when we go to Taylor's tonight and see the parade of people in La Cañada. Have you been to Taylor's recently?
Yes.
Okay. It's quite a show, isn't it?
Yeah, I was there, I don't know, 3 weeks ago.
For those who haven't been to Taylor's, this is a throwback. The original Taylor's, which still may be there, is down by where Langer's is in MacArthur Park and has the Naugahyde booths and very good. I had a very good bone-in ribeye, and they, I would say, serve their fair share of shaken martinis in that place, and many a pickled human and
yes,
pickled patrons are on display. It's quite a little slice. It reminds me, there used to be a place called Conrad's in La Cañada, and we took Drew and Susan there one night, and Drew walked in and looked around in the Conrad's. And there's still one, I think, in Pasadena. It may still be there at Walnut and Lake. I don't know. And Drew said, I feel like I've been teleported to Wisconsin. And I said, no, this is La Cañada. This is what La Cañada is. He being a Pasadena vintage doesn't quite understand the La Cañada.
He's such a snob. He never knew where, like, Studio City was or North Hollywood was.
Oh.
He never even went down the freeway. He said the freeway wasn't even built.
No, 210 wasn't built when we were in high school. I mean, it was just finishing up. I remember in starting high school, the 210, they were just starting to build it up. But the Valley was looked down upon. That's why Cobra Kai is so popular now. There was a certain kind of a snobbiness to the Polytechnic crowd when it came to Studio City. I would say there was some elitist stuff going on.
Well, as a guy whose family is from North Hollywood, I can tell you and Drew, you were right. Those are some unwashed masses over there.
Yeah, but
I went to high school with all of them.
But now that's kind of like that's a way station for Armos in North Hollywood.
Right.
Yeah, because they kind of, certain... The Armos, from the Montebello, Whittier, then you kind of move to North Hollywood if you make it, and then maybe Glendale. And then if you've really arrived, it's La Crescenta, La Cañada. That's kind of the Armo train. Yeah.
All right. Well, you are in the you're shoveling the coal.
Yeah. Yes,
and
I am
the engine of the
I am
Armo
the little
train.
engine that could in the Armo train.
All right. Do you want to see me and go to West Palm Beach, Florida? That's coming up.
Would that be Pretzel Central?
Pretzel Bread Central with Mark Garrigus.
I told Gary the hardest I've ever heard you laugh is recounting that story.
I never laughed so hard in my life. And 2 days later, I was on the phone laughing. It's February 16th and 17th, 18th off to Baltimore, Magooby's Joke House, and then I'm all over the place. So just go to AdamCarolla.com for all the live shows. Mark, what do you got?
If you're looking for a Valentine's Day gift that's affordable, Alex and Ani, AlexandAni.com. Go there and you've got all kinds of choices for your sweetheart.
So, till next time, Adam Carolla for Mark, Hard Out, Soft Taco Garrigus saying... Mahalo.
Thanks for listening to Reasonable Doubt. Tune in next Saturday for an all-new episode.